Christopher Tony Lamb. He is charged with sex offender registry violation. Failed to register is his first offense. Maybe he forgot to get there in time, but as a sex offender, you have to register. And he failed to do this, and this is what he was arrested for. Captain Cofer was notified that Mr. Lamb had not registered as required by law. Lamb's criminal history was ran and showed this is his 9th violation and has been convicted 5 times. Cofer obtained a warrant for failure to register as a sex offender, 3rd or more on Lamb. So he really wasn't his first offense. It was in Union County, but in other counties he failed also. So he was arrested. We have Crystal Jones, disposal of property under lien, breach, obtained signature, or under false pretenses, values under $2,000 or less. This went to Lucky's Scrap Metal Recycling and also from Union Car Connection. And this happened on January the 7th. Captain Cofer was advised that a car which was under lien had been sold to Lucky's Scrap Metal. A employee of Lucky's contacted Cofer with all the paperwork. Cofer then made contact with Union Car Connection and requested information from them. And Cofer did a follow-up, and Crystal Jones was arrested. Lives at 202 Lawson Avenue in Union. You can't sell things that you still haven't liened against. That's just the way it goes. Frankie Marquette Wallace was charged with open container of beer or wine in a moving vehicle and driving under suspension. This is his first offense for that. And this is what happened to Mr. Wallace, according to the deputy's report. Deputies received a bolo in reference to a black Chevy pickup truck all over the roadway on Highway 49 coming into Union. Deputies were updated that the vehicle turned around at Midway Drive and headed back towards Lawrence. The vehicle then turned into Fairwood Community and turned around to head back again towards Union. While all over the road, Sergeant Spencer met the vehicle at the intersection of Lover's Lane and Highway 49, where the vehicle crossed the center line into Sergeant Spencer's lane. Sergeant Spencer then drove approximately 1 mile behind the vehicle and observed it crossed the center line several more times. Sergeant Spencer initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle at Highway 49 and Industrial Park. Sergeant Spencer approached the 2021 Chevy Colorado bearing Texas tag and made contact with the driver, later identified as Frankie Stewart. Sergeant Spencer notified Stewart of the reason for the stop, and he indicated that he and his girlfriend were arguing, and that's why he was all over the road. Sergeant Spencer observed in plain view an open container of beer in the cup holder. Stewart admitted into driving this morning. At this time, Stewart was asked to step out of the vehicle. Corporal Burdine then had Stewart to complete a field sobriety test. After testing was completed, Stewart was notified he was under arrest at this time, and Stewart also admitted to having no license, which was verified through dispatch. Stewart gave consent for deputies to search his vehicle. Greer's record was requested by owner to tow the vehicle. Stewart was transported to the Union County Jail and charges. His DUS, driving under suspension, was his first offense. And also for the open container. All right, we got Marquis Matthew Jones, driving under suspension, first offense. And just going to remind everyone that you're not guilty until you go to court. These are just arrest reports. This is not investigation reports. On 216, Corporal Stanley was patrolling in the Duncan Bypass area when he ran South Carolina tag, and dispatch advised the tag came back suspended. Corporal Stanley initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle as they pulled into 513 North Duncan Bypass, Walmart. Corporal Stanley identified the driver to be Marquis Jones. Corporal Stanley had dispatch run Mr. Jones' South Carolina driver's license and was advised it was suspended for failure to pay traffic tickets. Corporal Stanley placed Mr. Jones under arrest and took possession of the South Carolina license plate. Mr. Jones was transported and booked in Union County Jail. So he was driving under suspension, and seemed like his tag might have come back wrong also, or suspended. And you can't drive without driver's license, especially if you fail to pay your tickets. They will take your license. Okay, we got Nathan Stevie Wright Jr., domestic violence in the second degree. And this is what happened by the report of the county sheriff's department. On 2/16, Corporal Israel responded to 464 Dillard in the Innery community of Union County in reference to a domestic violence. Corporal Israel arrived on the scene and made contact with a male subject standing at the end of the driveway. Corporal Israel exited his patrol car. The male subject stated that he had not done anything wrong and that his wife had hit him in the face. So Corporal Israel observed that the male subject had a small laceration above his eye, and Corporal Israel started talking to the male, who was identified as Nathan Wright, Jr. Corporal Israel asked Nathan what happened, and he stated that he didn't really know. Nathan then stated that his wife had been mad for a while, and Corporal Israel asked Nathan what did his wife hit him with, and he stated that she hit him with her fist, and then stated, "Please don't take her to jail." And Corporal Israel asked Nathan several times to give Corporal Israel the entire story of what happened. And he would not give Corporal Israel any details and kept changing the subject and giving information not related to what was going on. Nathan then told Corporal Israel that he could go talk to his wife to get more information about what happened. Corporal Israel then went and spoke with the wife, who was identified as Heather Wright, and Heather stated that she and Nathan started arguing in the living room and kitchen area, and while they were arguing, Nathan informed her that he was going to hurt her dad by stabbing him in the rib. Heather then stated that Nathan proceeded to show her gently how he was going to do it by putting his hand to her ribs like he was going to stab. Heather then stated that she and Nathan ended up on the floor in the living room after he tackled her while she was trying to get away and make distance between them. Heather stated that Nathan then went to the kid's bedroom, and then she followed him to the kid's room to tell him how he was wrong to put his hands on her. Heather then told him he was sorry for what he had done, and at that time he kicked her in the face. Heather stated that it did not leave any marks on her, but Nathan did make physical contact with her, and she instantly called 911. Heather then stated that while she was on the phone with 911, she observed him to be on the phone, and Heather then stated that she told dispatcher that he was getting ready and that she was unsure if he was leaving or not. Heather then gave dispatch a description of what Nathan was wearing. Heather then stated that she got her children's clothes packed, and Nathan came back into the house and showed her that he was bleeding. Heather stated that she did not touch him. Heather stated that she told dispatch that what happened, and when Corporal Israel arrived on the scene, she then hung up on the phone. Corporal Israel then spoke with Sergeant Bassett, who had spoke with one of the juveniles in the residence and advised that the juvenile gave her the entire story and witnessed her dad, Nathan, kick her mother and Heather in the face. Written statement was obtained, both from Heather and Nathan. So Corporal Israel placed Nathan under arrest for domestic violence, second degree, and is transported to the Union County Jail. So, domestic violence isn't always good. You need to walk away before it gets to that point, or you could be arrested. We have Tammy, Louise, Todd, unlawful entry into an enclosed places. And this is what happened with Tammy, Louise, Todd, 413 North Street, Lockhart, South Carolina. And this is what happened for her to be charged for unlawful entry into a enclosed place. On 2/17, Corporal Israel responded to 300 South 1st Street in the Lockhart community of Union County in reference to a trespassing issue. Corporal Israel arrived on the scene and made contact with the complaint, or the victim, Patricia Fleming, and Fleming stated that she and her husband owned the residence at 300 South 1st Street, and they had been told that Tammy Todd had been staying in the house and was not supposed to be there. Fleming stated that she came to check on the house and she could hear Tammy inside the residence. Corporal Israel went to the residence and announced his presence, and Tammy came to the door, and Corporal Israel asked Tammy what was she doing in the residence. She stated that she got kicked out of the house she was staying in and wanted to stay in a warm place. Corporal Israel confirmed with Tammy that she did not have permission to be in the residence, and she advised that she did not have a phone to call Miss Fleming to ask her permission. At that time, Tammy was placed under arrest for unlawful entry into an enclosed places and transported to New Union County Jail. All right, we got a guy here, and really a piece of work, but I know drugs sometimes plays tricks on people's minds and really messes people up, so drugs had to be here with Tyler Austin Gerdo. Tyler Austin Gerdo, Jerdo, 1922 Whitmire Highway, Union, South Carolina. He was charged with methamphetamine, meth, first offense, ill treatment of animals, torture, resisting arrest, and escape. And this is what happened. It's a long one. On 225, Corporal Stanley was waved down by a county employee. Corporal Stanley spoke with the employee, who stated he just left 1922 Whitmire Highway, and stated that Tyler Gerdo was under the influence of something strong and had his dog screwed to the wall and barricaded in the bathroom. He pleaded with Corporal Stanley to assist with the dog as quickly as possible, stated he would write it on paper or whatever county deputies needed to assist the dog and help Mr. Gerdo. Corporal Stanley contacted Sergeant Phelps and Sergeant Massett to respond. While en route to the location, Corporal Stanley also contacted Animal Control to respond to the incident location. Upon arrival, Corporal Stanley met with the Tyler Jerome's mother. Mr. Gerdo stated she owned the house and had a key to the residence, so Miss Gerdo unlocked the door and gave access to the county deputies. County deputies made entrance into the residence, and upon entering the hallway, could see a large barricade of items blocking the bathroom door. There was an outdoor bird bath, air conditioning unit, weightlifting in front of the door. There was many other items heavy placed against the door. Corporal Stanley could see the dog's foot screwed to the door frame. County deputies began removing the items and the door to gain access to the dog. Upon removing all the items, county deputies could clearly observe the dog's paw was screwed to the door frame. Corporal Stanley saw a red power drill and gave it to Sergeant Phelps. Sergeant Phelps was able to remove one screw from the dog's paw, but the bathroom door would still not open. Corporal Stanley went outside and removed the screen from the bathroom window to gain entry. Corporal Stanley was able to see the dog from the outside of the bathroom window. County deputies verified the dog was still alive but extremely tired and limp. Sergeant Phelps made entry into the bathroom window to continue efforts in removing the dog from the doorframe. Upon further examination, county deputies observed the dog still had a second screw in his paw inside the door frame. Deputies, along with animal control, had to pull the dog's paw from the screw because the screw was so deep in the paw. County deputies could not access the head of the screw. County deputies removed the dog from the bathroom and placed it into Sergeant Phelps' patrol car. At this time, Corporal Israel notified county deputies that a white Dodge 1500 truck was pulling into the front yard. Miss Gerdo stated that it was her son, Tyler Gerdo. Corporal Stanley approached the vehicle and observed Tyler Gerdo exit the vehicle, and Corporal Stanley advised Mr. Gerdo he was under arrest and to place his hands behind his back. Mr. Gerdo argued with Corporal Stanley, and as soon as Corporal Stanley touched Mr. Gerdo, he began resisting arrest. Corporal Stanley and Sergeant Bassett wrestled Mr. Gerdo to the ground, and Mr. Gerdo was advised multiple times to put his hands behind his back. Mr. Gerdo began swinging his elbows in an attempt to escape officer's custody. Corporal Stanley removed his taser and advised Mr. Gerdo if he did not comply, he would tase him. Mr. Gerdo continued to resist. Corporal Stanley stunned. Corporal Stanley stunned Mr. Gerdo in his right thigh in an attempt to place him into custody. Mr. Gerdo tasered, allowed county deputies to place Mr. Gerdo in handcuffs, and Mr. Gerdo continued to resist as county deputies attempt to place him into Sergeant Bassett's patrol vehicle. County deputies were finally able to place Mr. Gerdo into the patrol car. As county units went back around the house to collect evidence, Mr. Gerdo could be heard screaming in the front yard, and Mr. Gerdo was able to escape from the back of the patrol car and was attempting to flee the scene. County deputies were able to gain control of Mr. Gerdo again and had to use more physical force to place Mr. Gerdo into the back of the patrol car. Mr. Gerdo butted Sergeant Phelps in the forehead and continued to resist. Upon application of hand control and physical force, Mr. Gerdo was again placed in the back of the patrol car, and Sergeant transported Mr. Gerdo to the Union County Jail with deputies' assistance. This guy, that just tells you that this guy's drugs had affected his mind, fighting with with the officers, being tased, still fighting, and still trying to escape. And the worst of all, have that mentality to take screws and put in the poor animal's paws and screw that dog to where it was going to die in pain and agony, screwed to that frame. There's no sense. This is senseless. And that's what meth messes with your mind. It has to be. Not a normal person in the right mind would do this to an animal. The next person we have is Joshua Elijah Falls, public disorderly conduct. And let's see what led up to Joshua Falls' arrest. On 2/27, Corporal Israel responded to 1235 South Duncan bypass in reference to a domestic, and dispatch advised that the caller stated that a gray Chrysler was on the freeway Freeman Gas side of the hotel, and there was a male subject beating on the car with a female sitting in the car. Corporal Israel arrived on the scene and observed a gray Chrysler in the parking lot facing a Duncan bypass as if it was trying to leave. Corporal Israel observed a male subject standing in front of the car, keeping it from being able to leave. As Corporal Israel approached the vehicle, he was able to identify the male subject as Joshua Falls and the female as Kim Vasselli. Corporal Israel exited his patrol vehicle and could hear Falls telling Vasselli all she had to do was let him in the car, some bad language. And Corporal Israel then asked Falls that what was going on, and he stated, "She won't let me in the car." At that time, Corporal Israel separated Falls and Vasselli so they would stop arguing. Corporal Israel stated, speaking with Falls about what was going on, and Falls stated that he was upset because she would not let him in the car. Falls stated that he packed his stuff and she was going to take him where he needed to go, and Ed would not let him in the car. Falls stated that the argument started after some words were exchanged in the hotel room, but did not go into the detail about what was said. Corporal Israel then spoke with Vasselli, who stated that she did not know what started the argument, that she had been asleep all day long, and she woke to Falls fussing about her being pregnant. Vasselli stated that she was unsure if Falls had taken something or what was causing him to act that way he was. Vasselli did not state that the way he was acting scared her, because that was how he acted last time and she was stabbed by him. Corporal Israel then spoke with the complainant, who was identified and didn't give his name here, stated he poured into the hotel and observed Falls beating on the car and screaming and cussing. Stated that Falls was causing enough commotion that other people at the motel were coming out of the rooms to see what was going on. So after speaking with him, Corporal Israel went back to Falls and placed him under arrest for public disorderly conduct, and he was transported to the Union County Jail for booking. So, Joshua Falls was causing a big disturbance out in public, and that caused him to get arrested. Okay, we have an arrest for Dwayne Raynard Moss for fraud, confidence game, and breach of trust. And this is what happened. Deputies were dispatched to 2192 West Springs Highway to a scam report. Upon arrival, deputies spoke with the complainant, Lily Wilkinson. Miss Wilkinson stated that she had paid a contractor in advance to build a room onto her house. Miss Wilkinson stated that she has called the contractor several times, and each time he gave her a different reason for not showing up. Miss Wilkinson stated that the last couple of times she called, that the subject has not answered her calls and has not returned her messages. This incident will be investigated further on by the Union County Sheriff's Department, but right now he was arrested for fraud, confidence game, and breach of trust. Always check out anyone that's going to work on your house. Check with others' references, and this will save you a lot of trouble. All they had to do was just, give her an excuse why. I mean, not excuse, but why you can't do the work. So that's an important information, is to always check and see the person doing the work on your property.